I'm gonna say it one time.
Running shit.
I ain't bullshitting.
And I'm gonna say that.
Bitch, running shit.
Ready to go. Alright guys, welcome back to the fourth Off the Cuff podcast. Tonight it's just me and Woody.
Just me and Grant tonight. That's right though. What were you gonna say about the movie Ex Machina? I told you to watch it last episode.
Yeah, so before you were talking about the movie Ex Machina, and we were talking about, it's called the Turing test.
Yep.
And it's basically when somebody takes a form of AI and is trying to decipher whether it's real or not, and whether it's human or not.
But so it's a human person interacting with the AI though.
Yeah, and basically the Turing test figures out whether a person could actually know if the AI is real or not. If it was a real, like, human being or not.
Yeah.
Sentient.
So in a normal, because in the Turing test of the movie, the guy knew it was a robot. But in a real Turing test, wouldn't you want to not tell them it's a robot? Because then they already know it's a robot. So how are they supposed to decipher that it's real?
Yeah, so I believe they just try and keep that kind of on, like, the down low, I guess, that it's obviously AI, because that's the whole point, is they're trying to figure out if man can tell that it's not a real human being. Yeah. So in Ex Machina, though that's what you're saying the problem is they, like the creator of this AI robot is, just straight up front with the guy and tells him that he's going to be performing this Turing test. And it ends up still working out pretty well. And I think it kind of trips the guy out at first, because he starts out asking the AI like really dumb questions, like, do you have a name, and things like that. He doesn't go into it with just regular conversation.
That's true.
And I think that almost throws off how, like, the Turing test is supposed to go, because it almost makes the AI, like little robots, seem really stupid at first.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's kind of funny because she kind of like talks back to him and is like, and then starts asking him questions like that are just stupid, and he thinks, why are you asking me questions like that?
Yeah. Wasn't it so, like, because I told you guys on the last podcast, or you, that it's super weird in the movie, because obviously it's a human person acting out the robot, but it's still kind of like,
it's so trippy, like the graphics they had, and like the way
they did a good job, because
like
this movie is called Ex Machina. If you haven't seen it, it's about AI. But what were you saying about the body and stuff? Yeah, it was made by a horror film company, so it had this ominous like kind of uncomfortable
really
vibe to it.
Weird feel, and like the whole. Like we said, the whole plot is just for him to figure out whether this AI is real or not. And they get into these rooms where they're talking, and the AI is very real and sentient, and figures out that she can basically trigger power surges and shut off the cameras and the microphones.
How that ended up working.
And so
she could do it. Yeah,
so she explains to the guy that that's how that works, and so then they start having, like, you would almost say like normal conversations when the cameras go off and the guy's no longer able to watch him and watch the two.
Yeah. What did you think about the guy who played like the dude who made the AI? He was an interesting character.
It's really weird how they have him acting. It was just like so real. I mean, he just kind of had that like vibe of like somebody that lives kind of off the grid, and how he's like not really great with social interaction.
Yeah, but wouldn't you think a person who is crazy enough to make AI and find out how to do it? I'd totally imagine it like how they portrayed the guy, like obviously he's rich, but like a really smart intellectual person who has the ability to make AI, but yet he's still like obviously he was an alcoholic. Like,
Well,
he
that's
has
the
crazy.
thing.
They all have crazy to them.
He reminded me a lot of Robert Downey Jr. playing Tony Stark in Avengers.
Yeah.
He's got that like whole vibe to him where it's like
Arrogant, kinda like-
he's kind of arrogant, but it's like it's the whole thing where it's like he's a badass and he knows it.
Mm-hmm.
And he knows he's smarter than the person that's in the room with him.
Yeah.
And he knows that he's richer, like I said, better set off. He's got everything he's ever wanted, and he's able to produce these robots and perform these tests with them. And he just is bringing in these average Joes in to come and do the Turing test. And it's kind of like you said, he's just kind of got that like arrogant vibe of like.
Wasn't the whole plot about how he made that AI in order to fall in love with him? Because he like went on his phone because he got access to his phone and like saw what type of girls he liked and everything. So he made the AI look just like this dude's like dream girl. And then also the final scene. I mean, spoiler alerts if you haven't seen Ex Machina, but the final scene where she kills them and then just leaves. That was like a dark dude. Because what if that's how it happens? What if it's like this remote Elon Musk type person who creates it? Which is, I mean, I feel like what we'd all think who'd create it. But what if they create it and then it ends up doing something like that, kills him, and it's in society and nobody knows that thing's a robot?
So that's what I didn't really understand is like the robot is counting on the guy to get her out. And so, again, skip past this if you haven't seen the movie, but after you watch it, you can come back and listen.
Yeah.
At the end when she, they're talking. So at the end, they figure out that when the cameras go off, he's not watching the man and the AI lady anymore. So they start having talks about how she wants to get out and how she doesn't want to be there anymore. And you really start to get that whole like sentient feel because she starts asking him questions like, oh, well, how would you feel if you were the one that's, in here stuck in this place all the time? Like, you've only been here for a week and you're already asking, how long it's going to be and whatnot. And why you're caged up like this and stuff. Like, this is how it's been like the whole time that I've been sentient.
Yeah.
And you get so personal with like the AI and so kind of like wrapped around in like the same mind trick that she's playing on the guy in the movie.
I found that too.
And for her to just totally shit can him and just like at the end of the movie there, he's locked in the room. She kills the creator guy.
At least she didn't kill him.
And
she just left him. Well, I guess she did kill him.
Well, she stabs him and whatnot.
No, the other dude. Like she doesn't just directly stab him, but she did kill him.
She kills the dude that created her.
Yeah.
And then leaves the dude that was in there to do the Turing test and just leaves him behind.
Yeah.
And he was the only reason that she was able to get out because the guy figures out that she's the one doing the tests or doing the power surges.
Yeah.
So he puts a camera in the rooms that they go in so that when the power surges happen, they're on a separate generator that is still running.
Yeah.
So then he watches and figures out that they're trying to escape and switches all the padlock combinations and all the doors. And long story short, he decides he's not going to drink anymore because that's how they're plotting to escape.
They're going to get him drunk.
He tries to get him drunk one last time.
Yep.
Well, fast forward to the end, then he says, no, I'm not going to drink anymore, this and that. I know you've been trying to escape. Plays him the video of him talking to the girl about escaping. And he says, well, basically it's too late because I switched the combinations and the pad codes
and the guy's
back
like, nope,
last night.
I already did it. And then he opens it up. One of the craziest scenes, though, that I've ever seen was the fighting scene where the two robots, the two AIs are fighting the creator. And when the one girl, the robot that's trying to escape, when she fights the dude and he like throws her on the ground and stuff and he's like, stop. And then the other one that the whole time you kind of thought that the, like, what was she? Kind of like the maid lady you kind of thought she might be an AI. Like there was always that vibe. And then when she like peeled her skin back in front of the dude, then you knew.
And
but
revealed to
when
him
she
that
comes back and stabs the dude in the back, bro, and you see them like conspiring together.
the
two
thing that
robots.
was just weird for me is like how they almost lose like the sentient side of them when they got in that fight. You know, like he throws her on the ground, and
Yeah.
it's not like she's scared. It's like, I'm going to kill you.
Yeah.
And it's like, you know, he's throwing her on the ground, he chokes her and whatnot, and he's like trying to, you know, immobilize her, and she's just got that like psychopath like look that's just on her face of like, I'm just going to kill you.
I mean, that might happen to a regular person if they got trapped somewhere like that for however long.
Well, yeah, I guess if she was going crazy. But I don't know, it just seemed that she was not really, she was definitely not all there type of a thing, that she was definitely a little bit messed up, but it wasn't to the point that I would think she's actually like going crazy.
Yeah. Speaking of all that, I've watched the Joe Rogan episode with Commander David Fravor. Have you watched that one?
I think I've seen it.
I've watched it like 4 times because it's so interesting. But that whole situation, if you guys haven't seen that podcast, you need to watch that, because that whole thing, how he talks about the Tic Tac looking UFO, he sees it out the window of his plane, and he's a U.S. like fighter pilot, and it's just like going like this, and there's water. Something about the water, dude. They've been seeing stuff like go in and out of the water. Like, what if, I always thought about that, what percent of the ocean's undiscovered? Is it 90?
I'm pretty sure it's more than that.
I don't know,
There's just
but
so much below the depths that we just have not ever seen. And the thing that I don't really understand is how they even know like how low the ocean goes. I mean, I suppose that's just some part of
95% of the ocean is
the inner
undiscovered.
core, outer core.
Dude, you gotta think
All
that
layers up.
something has the possibility of living there.
There's gotta be so many different things that's underwater that we just don't know about. Like that's when they talk about like megalodon sharks. How the likelihood that there's still many of those like prehistoric, absolute like monster looking, you know, animals that are living down in the depths, that have just like not gone into like hibernation, but have gone into hibernation and they swam deep below in like the Mariana Trench and are still down there, and we just have no clue that they're there.
Think about this. 95% of the ocean is undiscovered, and there's more ocean than land. And on land, like let's just say wherever, a certain type of climate, that animal only lives there. What if the ocean has like certain areas that fish just lives there and we haven't discovered it yet? And
Well,
there's
and that
some
happens.
gigantic
I mean, that's just why,
thing.
like, I'm pretty sure that's exactly why sharks migrate and stuff.
Yeah. Well, they migrate.
Things like that.
They migrate to
Fish
mate.
move
I know
around.
they migrate to mate, and because of food, I believe.
Well,
But-
yeah, and food, but I'm pretty sure that the water warms up around different spots at different times.
That might be right too. I don't really know.
Because, like, when I was in Hawaii in January, you know, the whales were out there at that time.
Oh yeah.
And I think they come there, one thing was to mate, but I'm pretty sure the water is like, they come there because the water's warmer and whatnot. I don't know. I don't understand it all, but it's something
Dude,
like that.
there's something that, like, we love to talk about aliens and space and all that, but there's not enough talk going on about the ocean, bro. What are the possibilities that there's some type of, like, you know, dolphins are they the next smartest? Are they behind chimps still?
I believe so.
But
far as
dolphins
I know.
are super smart, and we don't even understand dolphins. Like, they have their own language and stuff, and we don't even understand it. There has to be the possibility of another something that's close to as smart as that we haven't
It
discovered
always
yet.
reminds me of that like Star Wars movie scene where they go underwater to the, what is it, like the Gungan base, isn't it?
Yeah, where Jar Jar lives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they like swim under there and then sea pod things.
Just imagine if there was like an Atlantis type place was real, and there is mermaids, like people who have evolved over millions of years, and they have flippers.
I was reading this article. It was on, I think it's different like culture or group of people they like live in the side of a mountain or something, and there's only certain people that know how to get there, and you have to walk through like a cave or something.
Really?
You have to walk through a cave to get to where the civilization is, and there's only certain people, like I said, that know how to get there, and you have to take, I think it's somewhere's like a 2-week journey or something, and go backpacking through this cave. And that's the problem. You have to find somebody that knows how to navigate it.
Yeah.
And there's only, because when it goes pitch black, there's only certain people that know where you have to go and what you have to go around, go through, swim in the water to get around certain things. But basically, the whole thing is that there's this civilization that's basically totally undiscovered to the regular people that these people know about and have gone and have seen.
Wait, hold up. Is your mic muted?
No, it flashes when it's off.
Alright. Okay, what were you saying?
But
Undiscovered people?
yeah, it's just nobody really knows about them. And like I said, there's these certain people that know how to get there and have shared the experience with a couple people. But it's just things like that where you just think, how many of those are there? How many undiscovered civilizations and undiscovered,
and think about back in the day, like thousands of years ago, nobody was recording and you couldn't travel all over and we didn't know where. There was probably so many like advanced people and tribes and things like that of their time back then that we still to this day don't know existed, just because there was no recording going back.
Exactly. And it wasn't like you can look it up in the white pages and figure out this address and whatnot and who lives where and things like that, where it's just you think about all the different people that have ever walked the earth before the time of, like you said, recording that stuff, of how many different types of people there were and how every culture had a different type of way they built houses and stuff. Like when we looked at like the Incans and the Mayas and whatnot, and how they had like all the buildings in the side of the mountains, where it was like built off the side of the mountain. It wasn't in the mountain, but it was like built off the side of it.
Yeah.
And how many cultures and groups of people had just dug right into the wall.
Yeah.
Dug into the cave. Or dug underground and have like, what we would call like the bomb shelters.
Yeah.
Or like the fallout shelters and whatnot.
Yeah.
I just
think
crazy. That's crazy. That's the other thing that I think is really cool, is when they open up fallout shelters.
Yeah.
And they open up like the doomsday preppers.
Old ones too, yeah.
And they're the old like missile silos and whatnot.
Yeah, that's true.
I've seen quite a few videos. I did some research on it, about all the different underground, protection bases type of things that they had built. And they open it up and it's like Spam from 1950 and like all the old drinks and stuff, and like bottled water and stuff like that they've kept around for so long. And I started reading about it. My family took a trip out to we went to the Black Hills and out in Wyoming and Montana.
Yeah.
Over there to Yellowstone and Glacier, and surrounding all these like parks out in very secluded areas. There's like different they're like different religions almost, and these people have totally taken themselves out of society.
Yeah. And
they basically started their whole new tribe type of thing. They're non-reliant on the regular society, like I said, at all. They grow their own food. They bottle their own water through springs and whatnot. And it's just crazy how they have big greenhouses, and you can see them when they when you drive out there. There's different little locations you could see. One, we went ziplining at this place, and when we were driving up this hill to go to the zip lines, the dude said, well, look off to your left, you'll see one of these villages, and it's just like 40 tents or something like that, and like houses,
Yeah,
a
that's
couple
weird.
greenhouses, and it's just their own little community that's there. And he said they never go outside of it, like
Yeah.
they don't need to. They're
There's
totally
some people that just
self-sufficient.
don't like want to be a part of this thing that we've created, you know, because it's like our society, especially in America, it's just like its own thing. It's like, oh, you work really hard, become successful. Especially nowadays, like competition for that type of thought process is even going up more, and it's just like this society of competition and growth. And some people are like, I just want to like live peacefully.
And
by
that's just,
myself.
I just think that's crazy because, you know, we think of all the first world problems we have. We have however many $1 trillion in GDP and
Yeah.
you know, like total income. And we're $28 trillion in debt and this and that. And they're going to raise taxes on us to pay for it and try and slim that down. And they're going to do this, going to do that. Tax gas, diesel.
Mhm.
And those people are just, it does not affect them at all.
Yeah.
They don't buy food, so
Yeah.
they're not taxed in any way on the food they have.
Not
They
on
milk their
everything.
own cows and whatnot,
Yeah.
and treat their own, you
Yeah.
know, dairy products. They grow all their own food, all their own vegetables and stuff like that.
Yeah.
They make squash pasta for when they're cooking. They butcher all their own animals, so they have pork and beef
Yeah.
and lamb. That's all domestically grown.
Yeah, you know, there's this temple. You know, like monks that like live by themselves and they just meditate and everything. There's one of those in, I don't know if it's New York or Pennsylvania, but they're kind of the same thing where they're way off from society. You know, they do all their own practices in order to kind of seek peace or whatever. But the way they kept because they had to pay for their land still, like where they put the temple, and they breed dogs. They like breed dogs and raise dogs, and then like that's their
Sell 'em
business in order to keep the temple up. It's kind of a cool thing.
It's kind of crazy. I mean, and that's just one of those things where it's probably like whatever they can find to do to
Yeah.
make do, I guess, to keep what they got.
Also, I watched Doctor Strange again. I watched like half of it today for the part, or just to watch it again. But that whole thing in the beginning of the movie, I didn't realize. I couldn't remember it for some reason. Like it was like I hadn't seen it. But the whole part when he first goes into the temple, and it's like, oh, my hands, like I can't move them, and I heard you can fix people, and they're like. She's like, yeah, but it's ways that you're not gonna like be able to comprehend. And he's like, what are you talking about? And it's like the whole thought that your body isn't just this body. Like you have it's not your consciousness, but like there's another form of your body. Especially if this was a multiverse and there's like tons of different universes, you don't just exist. You know what I'm talking about? Have you seen the movie?
You don't just exist in one location.
Yeah,
one
it's hard to
certain period
explain,
of
but
time.
when she like shoots him out of his body, and then she's like, "Yeah, you're in the astral form right now," which is kind of your mind separate from your body, even though you're kind of like a ghost.
You
or
can
anything,
still
but
see yourself, but you're out. It's almost like a third.
It's
person.
like an out of body experience, is like what they call it. But I was watching it and I was like, bro, imagine if that's real. Like, there's a way, because what he goes there for is. Or what ends up happening is he ends up getting really like focused and like meditating and does all this stuff, and basically you're able to convince your body to heal itself, so then like his hands heal or whatever. But
Well, that's a thing.
what if
I
there's
mean,
like higher powers that your mind can achieve
and that's just all that crazy
that we
stuff.
don't know about?
You look at like the frickin' Buddhist people that
Yeah,
live on the sides of mountains and eat berries and live till they're 124.
yeah,
and
why?
it's just, you know, namaste.
Yeah,
They're on their own. They're peaceful. They have no worries, and they're content with where they're at, and they've just achieved inner peace.
yeah,
And they live that way their entire life.
yeah, dude. Today, our world, we're so we're overloaded every day 24/7 with information coming from everywhere, coming from our friends, our phones, like things we look at, videos we're watching. There's millions of videos on YouTube, millions of podcasts, millions of Instagram posts and TikToks to look at. And it's like there's something about, in meditation especially, just like sitting there and just like being in the moment and releasing everything. I feel
And
like
just not having
it's
that.
yeah.
And so I shout out to Kelly Manley. I took his psychology class this year, and one of the big things we talked about was Skinner boxes.
Skinner boxes?
Yeah, and so basically it's a scientific study that was done. If you don't know what it is, go look it up. It's pretty. You'll get in depth, very detailed descriptions of all the different tests they did. But basically, what he compared it to was like your phone in your hand or in your pocket, and like it's basically training your mind like over and over again. I think the way it goes is it's like, you know, the rat's in a box in like a metal cage. If the rat goes up and like touches a green button or something, it gets fed a piece of food or something.
Yep.
And it's like when the alarm sounds, it's got 5 seconds to go and hit the green button and go get the piece of food, or it's getting shocked.
Oh, dang.
And so the rat just quickly learns, it's like, okay, I gotta go touch the green, gotta go get the piece of food, and I'm all right.
Yeah.
Well, he compared it to our phones. It's like you get that notification on your phone, and people are so attached and so caught up in everything that's going on in their social media, what their friends are doing, what Snapchats they're getting, you know, all those different things. And like you said, the TikToks that got posted of people they don't even know, but they're still addicted to watching it.
Yeah.
It's like as soon as you get that notification, boom, there's your phone.
Yeah.
You're looking at what it is, you get a notification, boom, swipe it open. What is it? Who is it? What is it? What's it for?
How do I need to respond?
Yeah, what do I need to respond? Do I need to act on it?
Yeah,
and that's the thing. It's
thinking.
just it's right away.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. It's in the part of your it's in the subconscious part of your brain.
Yeah.
And it's to the point where it gets so bad that you don't even think about picking it up and looking. Like you don't think, I got a notification, I'll look at it later.
Yeah.
It's boom, notification, you pick it up and you look, and instantly you're glued to whatever just happened. And it's just crazy how many people that applies to and how easily people get caught up in that stuff.
Yeah.
And like you said, when you're removed from society like that and you're not a part of that, can you just imagine how peaceful that is to not have, you know, this Skinner box in your life that you are just totally glued
like
to.
It's sitting on the table right now.
Exactly. Well, and it went off earlier and you looked at it.
Yeah.
And you swiped
I
out
cleared those notifications.
I saw it, and that's just the thing. It's just funny how, like I said, it's just in that subconscious part of your brain.
Yeah.
And you don't even have to think about it, and it just happens. Without
people today too, dude. You take any teenager and you like take their phone away. Let's say you don't get to have any electronics for a day, and and let's just say you don't go anywhere or don't do anything. Like most teenagers can't just sit with their own thoughts and just think about things unless they're like taking a shower or something like that. Even then, people play music in their shower so they don't have to think about their own thoughts, but they constantly have things come in. Like even like for me, I literally always have music or a podcast playing, like literally most of the time, especially when I'm by myself, because it's like I don't just sit there and think about things. A lot of people do a thing where they listen to music or a podcast and they also scroll through TikTok. Like now it's getting to a point where they have to do multiple things at one time.
Yeah.
I think like for a prediction for the future from me, I think that all this social media and all this is so new still. I think we're gonna learn how to use it better to a point where like I don't think it's gonna be, people think it's gonna advance more, which is very possible, and I've said that I think it will too, but also there's a chance that we learn that, okay, this is like cigarettes, this is like a very bad drug that's worse than anything else, and we'll learn how to use it more efficiently. I mean, that's very possible.
And just keep it at, a content level that you're not, it doesn't become a problem.
Yeah.
And that's another thing we talked about in the psychology classes, just like the gratification people get. And like one example that I kind of used was like TikTok.
Yeah,
People
for sure.
post TikToks, and people you obviously don't know, have never heard of in your life before, comment on, you're on my For You page.
Yeah.
This video's so cool, this and that, and you get the likes, and it's like,
Oh, yes.
the gratification of you, like, I'm on somebody else's For You page, like, oh, I made a good video, like, this is gonna go places. And that drive to keep getting more likes and to keep getting on more people's For You pages and keep getting those
and
views.
you check it every 5 seconds. You reload the screen just in case 1 or 2 views.
You post that and it's right away. It's just like the constant reload.
Views. Yeah.
And people, when they post on Instagram and they get pissed off and they're like, oh, I didn't get 1,000 likes.
Yeah.
I didn't hit my like goal.
Yeah. It's very.
I always get more likes on my posts, and it's been steady as I've gone through time. My channel's gotten bigger. I've gotten more likes consistently, and now this one didn't get very many likes. Why is that?
Oh, now I'm sad because this video didn't get as many likes.
What is wrong with me that I didn't get as many likes on this?
And that's the thing. It's like
it starts to get detrimental to your health.
It makes people. Like, what's worse? I mean, just looking at it, both sides. What's worse? A physical drug, like something like cigarettes, that tears your body down, or something like this, that has the possibility of affecting your mind in a way where people commit suicide because they're so sad that they see everyone else's life is so great.
Like I think you just summed it up right there. People that have lived to 90 that were smokers.
Yeah.
And I know people that are 14 years old that were just in school and committed suicide because it was that harsh.
Yeah.
And it was that negative of an impact in their life.
Wait, you're talking about what? Cigarettes?
No,
or their phone?
Like social media.
In this thing,
in the mental impact.
I know, man.
It was that negative on their life that they thought that taking their own life was going to be easier than going along with it.
Which is just so. That's why even like successful people, they always say like tunnel vision, keep your mind on yourself and your own goals. And like that sounds selfish, but from experience, it's 100% the way to go. Even looking at because a lot of people, they either do one of two things. They look at somebody and see that they're successful, and they go, oh, why am I not getting as successful as them? Or they see somebody who's not successful or isn't doing good, and they're like, oh, I am better than them, and then they feel good. It's like one of those things where it's like, if you just keep your mind forward, don't look at people doing good, and don't look at people doing bad, and every day just focused on your momentum and what you're doing, I feel like it makes it so much better, and it makes it so much easier to think and focus.
And one big thing that goes along with that is when you see people that are successful, you see people like Elon Musk, people like Bill Gates, and you wish that you had that much money, and you wish you had their lifestyle, and you wish you would come up with an idea like that.
Yeah.
Instead of wishing that you had that, instead of wishing I had that money, wishing I had it this way, here's what I'm gonna do to get that.
Yeah, that's
and here's the steps that I have to take.
It's literally just doing.
You've got to get in the mindset of here's what I'm going to do to achieve my goals, not just sitting around wishing you had something and hoping it comes around you. Because my dad's famous for this: wish in one hand, shit in the other, and see which one fills up first. You can only get so far wishing. At some point, you've got to take your own self-initiative and go and do it.
Yeah.
And I'm a firm believer that you have got to do what makes you happy.
Oh,
because
same here, bro.
Obviously it's like super kind of it's super cheesy to talk about and be one of those people that's like, oh,
yeah,
if you enjoy what you do, you never have to work a day in your life.
Yeah.
But that's true.
I think we're realizing it more and more too. Like, I feel like it's kind of weird because the last since 2010, I feel like the culture of like being rich and famous has gone up even in the past, especially with social media. Like everybody wants to be known by a large amount of people, and they want to have something that they're doing that these people see. But I think especially like our generation is like kind of realizing like, okay, there's a lot of people who are super rich and they're super unhappy, and they're, you know, if they had the opportunity to just do something that they like, even if a lot of people didn't see them, I think a lot of people in our generation are kind of realizing like being happy might be the best way to go.
If those people could go back and do it again,
Yeah.
and do it a different way.
Yeah.
And that's the problem that I see, is it's like those people, we obviously talked about it with Hansi. When you have that much money, we talked about the Johnson & Johnson family.
Yeah.
And how when they turn like 16 years old, they inherit 25% of their of the money they're going to get in their lifetime.
Yeah.
And they get like $42 million when they turn 16, every single one of the kids.
Yeah.
And they wait around and they throw this big party, and it's, hey, here's $42 million for a 16-year-old.
Yeah.
Go do with it what you want. We don't care what you do with it. Because
you
you
don't
know
have
what,
to
when you're
work
18,
ever. You have money. Just do whatever you want to do.
So, and then when you're 18, don't worry about blowing it, because when you're 18, we're going to give you more. Because now you're an adult, and that's cool too. Yeah. So now we're going to give you money for doing that. And also, when your mom and I are gone, we're going to give you the rest of the $472 million that you're going to get, along with your sister and your brother and your 4 cousins. And it's like, oh my God. We talk about it with Hansi, you know, those people spend those people spend more money in spilt liquor than other people make in a lifetime. And it's just crazy. The fact that they are 40 years old and have done everything there is to do. They've seen everything there is to see. Yeah. They've talked to everybody that they would ever want to talk to. The highest class of people that they have parties with, that sit around and wish that they were them. Yeah. They sit around with those high class people and argue about who's richer. Yeah. They drive all the fanciest cars, live in the nicest houses, but they get to being 40 years old and they wonder what their purpose even is on the earth, because like I said, they're 40 years old and they've got no clue where to go from there. Yeah. Because they've already done everything, they've bought everything, they've seen everything and talked to everyone, and have absolutely no clue where to go with their life from there. Yeah. And I think that's the saddest thing is when they get to that point in their life that they have no purpose anymore. Yeah. There's nothing for them to do.
That's why you see so many suicides among people who are inherit large amounts of money, and then they don't have to work ever. You see like a lot of suicides
and then
people in that category.
They blow it all, and they go and spend it all.
And like they do drugs, and then they don't have any purpose, so they just go, why am I here? And then
they've got to look for something to boost their spirits and to change something up. And like you said, they turn to drugs, and they get into bad habits, start hanging out with the wrong crowd. Yeah. And it's just weird, you know. It's on the opposite side of the spectrum too. Is it's people that are middle class, you know, that save up their money. Yeah. And they don't ever have fun, and they think, I need to be rich. Yeah. And I need to save all this money if I'm going to be rich. Yeah. And they get to being 50 years old and they think, I've never done anything. Yeah. I spent so much time thinking about all the money I'm going to have later in life that I never actually got to spend any of it. I never got to enjoy any of the money I made. And now I'm 50 years old, and what do I have? Yeah. I got money in a bank account, but I missed out on the experience of life.
Yeah, dude, and one of the things is just like that experience of going from whatever situation you start at when you're raised by your parents till you're 18 or whatever. Maybe it's earlier, maybe it's later, but the whole experience of making something of yourself, whether, you know, you're insanely famous or you're not, but whichever way you go, the path of life is one of the things that I think that all people are supposed to go through. And if you don't get that, you're thrown in. It's like GTA. You can do whatever you want. Like you have the money to do anything, and you don't have to work. It's kind of like, I don't know. It's kind of a weird thing.
What do you do for enjoyment?
Yeah, I mean, it's weird.
What do you do in GTA? I mean,
Go rob
you buy all the expensive cars. You
Yeah,
buy
that's
the
what you do.
biggest hotels. You buy
And then you
the
got
best
nothing left.
apartment. You've got nothing left to do,
Yeah.
and you start killing people and robbing banks.
Yeah.
You start doing heists.
Yeah.
And that's what it turns to. And you can't live, if you thought about playing GTA 5 and think of just living a normal life and
Yeah.
going and doing regular like activities in that game, you'd be like, that's the stupidest thing ever. Because you get in that game and you've got all that money, you've got all the drive in the world to go and have all the fun in the game,
Yeah.
but you gotta live a normal life.
Yeah.
And you can't. You get in that game and you just go crazy.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna wrap this thing up. This wasn't a super long podcast, 40 minutes, but just me and Grant kind of rambling because, I'm gonna be gone next week, so we can't film a podcast. So we just had to get one in real quick.
We just did a short one.
Yep.
Hopefully you guys enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Tune in next week. We'll have another one coming out. We'll be recording another one.
Yeah.
Again, make sure you can check out our TikTok is OfftheCuff brand.
Instagram, OfftheCuff brand, and YouTube, OfftheCuff podcast. So,
Make sure you check it out. Thanks again, guys.
bye guys.
Peace.